Hey guys, this is Big Willie Styles here. We're going to be doing a video today about Kerbal Space Program, which is, if you don't know, it's a rocket science game. It's actually really fun, but it's hard sometimes for new players to get into it. So we're going to start a new career here and walk through some of the basics. You got to collect science, you got to go to outer space, all kinds of good stuff. So the first thing is to click on that building there. And we're going to design a very simple ship. All it's going to be is a command pod. So you click that command pod, you can go up there and name your ship. I'm going to put First Craft. Go ahead and save it and launch. And what will happen is you'll get taken to the launch pad. It's going to be a very simple science gathering mission here. Just a command pod on the launch pad. So what we're doing here, just checking it out, rotate around there with right click. If you right click on it, there's some options. Control from here, rename vessel, toggle torque. But what we want is a crew report. So you click that, click keep data. Let's do an EVA. Now if you right click on your guy, you can hit EVA report. This is a most precarious situation. Keep data. Alright. And see, he was doing an EVA report on the ladder, so it's kind of like he was flying. You can't do two EVA reports at the same time, so you got to put the data back in the capsule like this. You take the data out, you put the data in, there you go. So now let's get some more data. Let's do an EVA report. I don't think a spacesuit was entirely necessary to get here, was it? Keep that data. Alright. Let's push the pod around a little bit. See, when you're bored, it also stores the data back into the pod. Now, to end the mission, you hit recover vessel, just like that. Now, I could have taken a surface sample, but I guess I forgot. So, we earned 9 science on that mission. Now, to spin the science, you go to the science facility right here. And there's really only one option to unlock: basic rocketry, which will unlock a couple of fuel tanks, a goo canister, which is a piece of science equipment, and then a decoupler, which is the stack decoupler. Now that unlocks the tree where there's 3 more options, but we don't have the science for that right now. So let's make another ship for our second mission. So same thing, we'll start with the command pod, but this time we're going to fly. So in order to survive that flight, we're going to need a parachute. Just click it right on top there. Next thing we're going to need is that stack decoupler that we just unlocked. Now the stack decoupler, basically separates the ship so that you can safely land the capsule. Now what this is here is 2 liquid fuel tanks. There's 2 types of fuel tanks, liquid and solid, but we'll get to that later. Maybe in a future video. And then there's only 1 engine available. Clip it on the bottom. If you look at the bottom right hand side of the screen, that is the staging. So you see 210. Basically to activate a stage, you hit the space bar. So the first stage is the engine. As you can see in the bottom left now, number 2. So the basic controls here, you're going to want to turn on something called SAS by hitting the letter T, and that holds you, but basically makes you fly straight. And then this ship has 3 stages: a rocket, a decoupler, and a parachute. So they're going to go in that order. So launch, you hold shift and spacebar to activate the engine, and we're off and away. Shift is your throttle, by the way, and then left shift is, and then left control will turn your throttle down. So as you fly up there, you're going to want to keep your speed probably under 200 meters per second. Otherwise, you're just pushing against air and it's slowing you down. It's actually a little bit inefficient. So what I'm doing here is hitting left control to slow down a bit, to keep my speed under 200 meters per second, at least until I get to 10,000 meters. Now I'm doing a crew report while I'm flying. Go ahead and save that data. this ship probably isn't going to make it into orbit, but I can at least practice using the staging of the parachute here. So what I'm doing is I'm turning east, which is the 90-degree direction on the nav ball. I'm just kind of flying about a 45-degree angle to the east. It's a nice, good height. Now, this engine's about to run out of fuel. As you can see at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And it's gone. Now let's look here. This is the map view. You access it by hitting M. And you can see our apoapsis is 51,000 meters, which is basically how high the flight is going to take us there. The command pod can only store one crew report. So now what I'm doing here is doing some time acceleration. So to do that, you use the little greater than and less than signs on your keyboard. While you're in an atmosphere, you can only do what's called physics time acceleration, which is 4 times speed. And all the physics of the game are simulated, meaning you can have collisions and parachutes and those kind of things happening. So as we fly around here, getting ready to land, and we're going to activate these decouplers here in a minute, and then activate the parachute. But yeah, so in order to activate the decoupler, spacebar. And there it is. The fuel tank drifts away because I don't know why it goes in front of us. It's less dense than the command pod, I would think. Maybe I'm wrong. So in the capsule here, just flying down toward the ocean for a splashdown. In a minute, once we get down to like, you know, if you look down on the surface speed there, you'll see 960 meters per second. Really, you probably don't want to activate the parachute that fast, but it would actually probably be okay. But for realism's sake, let's just slow down a bit, get a little lower. You know, we're already down to 600 meters per second. Once our speed gets just a little bit lower, maybe 200, 300, 400 meters a second, it'd be fine to go ahead and hit spacebar and activate that parachute. Come in for a nice clean water landing. And it's no problem. No matter where you land on the planet, you can recover your vessel instantly. So it's all good. There it is. Parachute's away. And the parachute does not fully open until you get 500 meters above the surface below you. So the altitude at which the parachute open actually varies. So if you're falling onto a mountain, your parachute's going to open higher than if you're falling onto the sea level. So, you know, imagine a little laser beam shooting out from the bottom of your capsule, and if it detects there's ground 500 meters below it, that parachute opens, just like it did right there. So it's important to note, you shouldn't time accelerate when the parachute actually opens, because it has been known to rip parachutes off of spacecraft. And now we'll time accelerate on down to the ground, splash into the water, go ahead and kill that time acceleration, and why don't we do a little bit of science here? And we'll do that, get an EVA report. First, let's take the data out and store it back in. Now, a surface sample. You've taken a sample of water. It appears to dramatically increase the humidity of anything it touches. And an EVA report. Alright. I can grab back on, climb down a little bit, and board. Do another crew report from the Kerbal water, and keep the data. Excellent. Recover that vessel. So there you go. See how much science we got. 30 science. That should be enough to unlock something. Right on. So, back to the science facility. what shall we get? We could get general rocketry, which has a new engine and a solid rocket booster. There's control, which has some winglets, a radial decoupler, and a nose cone. And survivability, which has a smaller engine, some landing struts, and a radial parachute. I think we're going to go with stability here, so that we can use these radial decouplers and make an orbital flight for our third mission. Excellent. So let's go build a new spacecraft that will achieve orbit. So this is going to have a few more stages than the previous craft. So you go to structure, get that stack decoupler. We're going to make another stack of fuel tanks here. Stack them up. Now to move your ship, you can just grab the pod and I think using the mouse wheel, scroll up. Alright, so now we've got a fourth stage. Throw on some winglets here. Now, if you hit that button down there, angle snap, it'll allow you to line things up nice and symmetrically. So these winglets, they do not actually adjust during flight, so they're kind of rigid, but they do keep your craft flying straight. Now if you hit the letter X, that adjusts that symmetry mode so that you can have two exactly on the other side of each other. Now these radial decouplers will have another stack of fuel tanks to the side, perhaps a bit shorter than the main stack so that they burn out first, drop clearly away, and then the remainder will burn up. Okay, that's starting to look like a pretty good spacecraft that will make it into orbit. I decided against that there. Just those side tanks are one tank shorter than the main central tank. They'll fall away first. These here are goo canisters. These are going to collect some science. Go ahead and make them symmetrical. I think I'm only going to bring 2 here. That's all we really need. And important to note, you need to keep your ship symmetrical so that it, flies straight. That should be common sense. Let's launch. Oh. Got to adjust the staging there. You can drag the different things around to checking make sure it goes off in the right order. So you want all 3 engines to fire, then the 2 radial decouplers attached, then the stag decoupler, and then the final stag decoupler and the parachute. Alright, turn SAS on, throttle up, hit the space bar. Now these fins are going to cause the spacecraft to want to fly straight. So any turning, any steering is going to be quite difficult with this kind of ship. It's quite large for the amount of steering control it is. Best bet, fly straight up. Try to keep it under 200 meters a second until you get to 10,000 meters. And then the left shift and left control to pull up and down. With liquid fuel tanks, the solid rocket boosters we haven't used yet. That's pretty much all or nothing. So there it goes. I'm actually breaking my rules, going a little bit faster than I should, but that's okay. It's going to be alright. Now at around 10,000 meters, that's where you're going to probably start your turn. You're going to turn with a 90-degree direction. And the reason for that is the planet of Kerbal rotates in that direction to the east. So you kind of have a little bit of a speed boost because of the rotation of the planet. If you go in that direction, it will allow you to get to orbit more efficiently. Now, it's important to note the Kerbal Space Center is right on the equator, so it kind of makes these things a little bit simplified. Also, the planet of Kerbal is much smaller than planet Earth, so that also makes things easier. Now what I'm doing here is throttling up until I break these stages away. There it is. Now we're on to the last stage. with map mode, I'm watching my apoapsis. Going to get that thing up. 70,000 meters is the edge of outer space, but let's go a little bit higher here. Higher, higher, higher. Just get a little more wiggle room to work with. There it is. I think we're going to go to maybe 100,000. Perfect. So plenty of fuel. Got some monopropellant, some liquid fuel, some oxidizer. You can click your resources in the top right. See how much electricity you have and those kind of things. So yeah, I'm in outer space now. Because the music starts. Music starts when you get to outer space. So now we're going to use the maneuver node system. So you click there, add a maneuver. You want to drag that one forward ever so slowly. And what's going to happen is you're going to get this theoretical orbit. And you want to adjust it right until those two tabs there flip-flop. And that means you have a circular orbit right when they flip. So if you look at the bottom near the nav ball there, you'll see how much fuel how much delta V you're going to need to use to achieve that new orbit. And on the nav ball you'll see a blue indicator pointing in which direction you need to burn to achieve that new orbit. So what I'm doing is I'm time accelerating now to my node, and I'm going to burn. And now notice, I'm going to go through full throttle at the beginning, but as I get closer to the end, I'm going to throttle down, make it more precise burn. It's there, and slow it. Okay. Nice. Just so. And hit X to kill your thrust. And look, matched it perfectly. We are in orbit. Now you're safely in orbit. There's no worries of crashing to the planet, anything like that. It's a stable orbit. So kind of fly around Kerbal here with some time acceleration. Now, when you're in space, out of the atmosphere, you can time accelerate much faster. And this is not a physics-based acceleration. It's kind of on rails. So, yeah, in fact, if you were to hit a satellite or something, which would be very difficult to do because space is big, but if you were, nothing would happen. You would pass right through it because no physics are being simulated. Alright. So, now we're back around, and let's flip the ship around and do some science. So what I'm going to do is flip to where the door is facing the sunlight here. And do a crew report. Keep that data. And let's do an EVA. Or no, let's observe the mystery goo in the pod there. The goo seems to have clumped into a sphere. It also appears to have become brittle. Now, in order to bring that data home, I'm going to have to go into an EVA and collect it with my Kerbal. Now he's doing an EVA report from outer space, the first spacewalk for Kerbal kind. And now what he's going to do is gently climb down the ladder and go get that data. Now, to turn on your jetpack, you're going to hit the letter R. Now, the controls here are very touchy, and you don't want to go fast. You want to slowly drift around. So it's the WASD controls and then shift and control. So shift is up, control is down. W and S is forward and back. A and D are left and right, like a kind of a strafe, not a turn. So you want to ever so gently use these controls to get near your science instrument of the new pod. When you get there, you can right-click it and collect the data, and hit remove data, and what that does is that actually disable that pod and cannot be used again on this mission. But that's okay, it has served its purpose. Let's get back inside where it's, you know, where it's safe. Alright. Excellent. So, I can see my house from here. Let's take the data out, store it back in, and this is to get around a feature of the crew reports. You can only have one active crew report in the capsule at a time, but if you take it out and restore it, it'll allow you to do another crew report. So what we're doing here is pointing towards our retrograde vector, which is the opposite direction of travel, and it looks like a little yellow circle with an X through it. Now if you thrust here ever so slowly, you'll see your periapsis come down. So this is how you safely return to Kerbin. Now see, that's 64,000, that's in the atmosphere, but we're going to go lower. And in fact, since this is a video, you know, normally you can do a nice, slow, you know, angled approach like that, but I don't want to land on the dark side in a video, so I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to thrust a little bit more backwards and just come on straight down. And in this version of the game, it's a 0.235, I believe. There is no ill effects or danger from re-entry heat, so you can pretty much just come into the atmosphere anyway, which way you want. And now, what I'm going to do here is, I'm heading downward, I'm gonna land. I'm going into the atmosphere now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a goo reading from the upper atmosphere and try to actually recover this whole vessel. And now, this is a dangerous thing here because the parachute may not be able to lift all the weight of this ship. So I'm going to go ahead and take that reading. And that's from the upper atmosphere. The goo seems to be getting very cold. And now, since this is kind of a dangerous maneuver, I don't know if the parachute's going to support my weight. I'm going to go ahead and quick save, and that's done by hitting F5. And you'll see in the top right it says quick saving. Now, that means I can come back to this point whenever I want to if this landing, in quotes, becomes a crash landing. So we're hitting the thicker part of the atmosphere and slowing down. And we'll see how this goes. This will be a hardware-assisted litho braking. Oh yeah. That speed is dropping fast. This is a very steep angle I'll be coming in at. I'm basically almost falling straight toward the ground at orbital speed. But the air has slowed me down. Looks like I'm going to be safely landing, hopefully, onto this little continent here. And once the speed gets down again to maybe, and it's actually probably more important with a bigger craft like this because of the kind of the whiplash effect of deploying that parachute. And so I'm staging on an order, so what I'm going to do is right click the chute and deploy it. So here we go, we're going to see how this works. And like I said, this parachute is probably a bit too small to safely bring all of this hardware down. But it's for science. You see the data for the upper atmosphere goo pod is still stored inside of it. So we shall see how this goes. And if it goes badly, just reload the quick save, no big deal. You do that by hitting F9. Alright, so the parachute opened. You can see our shadow there. We're traveling at a leisurely 12.7 meters per second towards the ground. And that's still not going to be safe. Generally, you're going to want to do a landing at about, 5 meters a second. Something like that. So, coming in a bit fast. Let's see how it goes here. Let's see what happens. And there it is. The hardware assisted our descent there. We have survived. The science has survived. Jebediah Kerman goes on an EVA, falls out because he's all knocked around. Yes, we are back home. We shall plant a flag in victory of our first orbit. Excellent. First orbit. There is a first time for everything. Victory. Now, pose by your flag and your crash ship for your, obligatory screenshot, which I believe is F12. Do an EVA report. Get some grassland samples. Yep, looks like dirt. Collect it. And go ahead and get back in the ship. Now, I actually have to get the goo data out of the goo pod. Not entirely necessary because it's on the surface, so if you recover the vessel, you get it. Go ahead and try to get back in. Spacebar is jump, so try to hop around, get back in there. Oop, there you go. Grab on and board. Now we shall recover the vessel. Oh, let's do a crew report first. From the grasslands, keep that data. And recover the vessel. Excellent. Lots and lots of science. See what we got there. 65 science. Great. Now, that'll set us up for the next video, where I will do some more missions, get some more science. We'll see how it goes. What should we unlock? Generally, you're going to want to unlock the survivability tree, because that's where you can't really tell right away if you're a new player, but on this survivability tree by the parachute, this is where the science stuff is. So, I'm down here, there's batteries and science, something called the Science Materials Bay, the Science Junior. Yeah, I mean, that thing's mega science. It's a much better experiment than the goo pod, and let's unlock that. So you get science equipment to get more science, to get more science equipment to get more science. Let's close it out. Now, hope everybody learned something, and thanks for watching.